Welcome to New York's #2 sports show. Yankees sweep the Orioles, but unfortunately, they do not win the AL East. So definitely a bummer and very unfortunate. Yankees end the season on an 8-game winning streak, go to 94-68. It was the same record they had last year, but the Blue Jays made it interesting. We last spoke, and at that point, there was a sense that it was possible. And I had a feeling the Yankees were going to need to sweep. Um, and the Blue Jays won pretty handily all 3 games against the Rays. And so there's frustration towards Tampa, but at the end of the day, it's on the Yankees. And that's why every game is very important. And it's not to say the Yankees can't, you know, get to the promised land, get through the American League, and it can very well still happen, but the road has become exponentially tougher. There's no way around it. And so it sucks because they really are playing good baseball. Now, granted, not great opponents involved here, but the Orioles have been playing well. The Yankees did do well early in the month against, mostly playoff competition. So I think that you can feel good about the team, but in a best of 3 series against the Red Sox, which we're going to have a series preview episode. So, we're going to keep this to the normal sort of, regular season series recap. It's going to be a little bit different. We're going to move through it, a little bit more swiftly, just considering that now, at the time, here's the thing, at the time, the games meant a lot. Which is good in terms of just being in that playoff mode for the Yankees. But by the end of game 3 is when it kind of, second half of game 3 is when it felt different. The Yankees did still win the game. It was actually a solid win in and of itself, but it doesn't mean much. So yeah, I think home field advantage is important. It's good that the Yankees will have it against Boston. So there's that. And look, it was actually very close to it being the Tigers. What ends up happening is the Astros miss the playoffs. It's going to be Guardians hosting the Tigers in the 3-6 matchup, and they'll face the winner of that will face the Mariners. And now you have an AL East gauntlet, which isn't really good for the Yankees. The Yankees have not been good in the AL East, and one of the biggest reasons they're in this position is the struggles against the Red Sox and Blue Jays. 5-8 against the Blue Jays, 4-9 against the Red Sox, and it was very close to being the Tigers, which in my opinion, be careful what you wish for. Maybe slightly I would have preferred Detroit, but not by that much. Not by that much at all. But we'll, not going to really do a preview at the end of this episode much because I want to focus that in an individual episode that I'm going to record, regarding Yankees Red Sox. So, again, the feeling going into this, Yankee Orioles series is, hey, take care of your business and hope that the Rays can, find a way to win a game. And what sucks about the Rays is, by the end of the series, Yandy Diaz got pinch hit for in game 2 and didn't play game 3, and it was not injury related. No one will ever admit this. I'm pretty sure it was because he had a 300 batting average, which is crazy. The fact that maybe it's not like it was a batting title. And look, maybe there was contractual incentives if Yandy Diaz hit 300 or about. I don't know, maybe, but yeah. So he basically didn't play half the series, and it was not injury related. In the last game, Brandon Lau didn't play, Chandler Simpson didn't play. What are we doing exactly? And look, Toronto might have still won anyway, but there is a frustration there, because the Yankees did do their part. But again, it's what happened in the middle of the season. It's why every game is so, so important, because now you could drive yourself crazy thinking about all the games and all the decisions that they had that really ultimately cost them. I just hope it doesn't cost them in the long run. Hopefully this can be somehow a blessing in disguise, the path that they're going to take forward here, but it doesn't feel great right now. And that's a shame because of really a great September, really even more than they've been playing really good baseball now for a while. So, game 1 ends up really going much better than I thought. Trevor Rogers, who's been great, and Baltimore kind of held him back. He should have lined up to have faced the Rays the series before, but he ends up facing the Yankees, and they did get to him. And it was really the Giancarlo Stanton, Aaron Judge show. And they're hitting the ball well right now. And I hope that, in the case of Stanton, we know in the postseason that he's done his thing. Judge, it's been a little more of a struggle, but Judge really finished hot. And Will Warren, not great, really makes one bad mistake that Did not feel good at the time. Luckily, the Yankees offense responded, but Will Warren gets the win, goes to 9-8, finishes 9-8, I should say. 5 innings, 6 hits, 4 runs, 1 walk, and 7 strikeouts for Warren. Um, and yeah, like he basically ended up as the fifth starter. And look, like overall, Will Warren's season was really good. Like based on expectation, like in a lot of ways, he ended up being like the Luis Hill, like a much worse version of what Luis Hill was last year. But like the fact that he stayed. Hill missed a little bit of time last year on the injured list. Warren, the fact that he basically was in the rotation the whole way through, very impressive. So like the overall numbers are not amazing, but there's a lot to build off on here, and we'll see what his role is in the postseason. I have no idea. That'll be a conversation again, kind of just previewing the possibilities for the roster of the wild card roster. We'll talk about in the preview episode, but that was Warren's outing. And then for the Orioles, Trevor Rogers only goes 3 innings, 3 hits, 6 runs, 3 walks, 3 strikeouts, and 3 homers. Very impressive. Rogers has been really good, and I've been a little bit critical of the Yankees as far as not being able to hit top-notch pitching. That was not the case here. They really did so. And this was a lineup that was extremely right-hand heavy, which it again, like I know it's hard not to kind of talk about like the crochet, because again, I want to save that, but let's see. I don't think it'll be this right-hand heavy. In other words, like let's just use Austin Slater as an example. He started this game. I still think it'll probably be Grisham over Slater, but that's kind of the spot that it ends up kind of being on a 1-for-1 basis. But like, that's what they did. Goldschmidt leading off is not a surprise, obviously. Rosario plays third. Caballero starts at second. And it's just going to be interesting to see as we move forward. But the Yankees jump out to the early lead, and it's Giancarlo Stanton, who just has a knack for the big moment. Just does. And what really ends up being an amazing season for Stanton. It's funny, the strikeout rate is extremely high. It really, really is. But yet, really, really impressive stuff of what he did. Put up, again, like basically played about half the season thereabouts, right? Like Giancarlo Stanton, as far as games played, ended up being 77. He really played shy of half the season and ends up with 24 home runs. He hits his 22nd home run here in the first inning to make it 2-0 Yanks. But then at the top of the third is where Warren makes a really bad mistake. And it's 2 outs going on, kind of innocent enough. Kobe Mayo infield single, Jackson Holliday walk, and then Jordan Westburg on an 0-2 pitch. Warren just hangs it, and Westburg bangs it out for a 3-run homer, 3-2. Just those are the things that can't happen. And it's why, one of the reasons why you won't see Warren starting in all likelihood in the postseason. So that makes it 3-2 there. But the Yankees fight back in the bottom of the third. It is a 2-run homer for Judge, his 52nd homer of the year. And then Stanton does it again. Just an absolute mammoth 451-foot shot. 23rd homer makes it 6-3. Again, the story of this game was Stanton and Judge. No doubt. Warren settles in a bit. And in the top of the sixth, Tyler O'Neill homers his 9th homer of the year to make it 6-4. And then that would be all for Warren. They were going batter to batter. Then Mark Leiter Jr. comes in. Error by Paul Goldschmidt. Like the defense by Mark Leiter Jr., to be fair to him, hasn't been great. Like that's been a thing kind of all year, I feel like, where there has been a little bit of an unlucky nature, although I still don't love Leiter Jr.'s season. But he is able to get some outs. And then it goes to Tim Hill. I mean, look, it wasn't a great outing for Leiter Jr. beyond the error, but it ends up bases loaded 2 outs, and Tim Hill gets Jackson Holliday ground out. Tim Hill, it depends kind of on the series, right? It'll be very series dependent when it comes to Tim Hill. In thinking about it, I don't know if he's going to play the biggest of roles, to be quite honest with you. Maybe Jarren Duran in a Red Sox series, with Roman Anthony likely out. Like, again, that's one less guy for Tim Hill. But depending on the team, he could, just like this, 2 outs, gotta get out of a jam. I still do trust him against lefties. I do. Not against righties, of course, but hey, he can throw strikes, typically gets soft contact, and there he gets Holliday. That was a big spot in the moment right there. And at this time, Rays, out of all the nights, out of all the days, game 1 was the closest Ray Blue Jay game. So, game 3 had even game 2 had a big time feel to it for the fact that Blue Jays Rays didn't start until 2 hours later than the Yankee game, and the Yankees won that game easily. So really, like the juice was a lot less in game. Out of everything, Game 3 felt different. Games 1 and 2 like felt pretty high pressured. Yankees are able to get a run back in the bottom of the sixth. It's an Austin Wells RBI single to make it 7-4 off of Yennier Cano. The Yankees have had a lot of success off of. There was a poor attempted squeeze play where Caballero is unable to get it down and then Volpe gets caught. That's more of a situation where Volpe needed to be a little bit smarter there. I don't blame that for Caballero. Well, there will be some negative Caballero slander later in the episode, but there it's more on Volpe. So it's 7-4 Yanks, top of the seventh. And at this point, Chisholm had pinch hit for Slater. So that happened. So, moving some things around defensively. And also Grisham had pinch hit for Rosario before that. So I did kind of left that out, but, and you're going to see a lot of that in these types of situations. Sam Hill able to get a couple of outs, which was good. And then Fernando Cruz comes on. Cruz, it's been tough. The walks have been there. I'm a little bit worried about Cruz. Like I think Cruz is ahead of Doval in the pecking order, but it can't be by much. I think he is based on the fact that Doval never got himself back to a high leverage spot. So the first crack will be Cruz in that lane. But if Cruz fucks up, I could see that changing. Cruz does, it ends up being tying run Rushman on. Walk O'Neill, walk Carlson, but he is able to get Rushman out to keep it at 7-4. But again, Cruz has been definitely shaky. Bottom of the seventh, Yankees score another run. They got bases loaded, and Stanton gets an RBI ground out to make it 8-4. They would not score more than that. Yankees had chances to break it open to the point where, like, you didn't, like, again, eventually Bednar comes in. We're going to bring up Bednar again later. But, not ideal. Doval with a very electric eighth inning, which was nice, right? So I talked about Doval not being high leverage. I still feel like him being in this eighth inning situation was more circumstantial than anything. I believe that Weaver and Devin Williams were unavailable. So more to do with that, but he strikes out the side in the eighth there. And then in the ninth, Bednar gets in a little bit of trouble, actually. Leadoff walk Jackson Holiday, infield single Jordan Westberg. On a play that I think Caballero could have made it third. They didn't bring McMahon in for defensive purposes. They left in Caballero. But then after that, Bednar settles down, as he typically does, gets a couple of strikeouts, and the Yankees win 8-4. Again, kind of wish Bednar didn't pitch, but so be it. Yanks win 8-4, but the Blue Jays win as well, where Rays had second and third, 2 out in the ninth, but Yandy Diaz grounded out. Game 2. Game 2 is the Cam Schlittler show. And Schlittler would basically be the Game 3 starter in all likelihood, if there is a Game 3, against the Red Sox. And, who knows how to feel about that, but at least Schlittler has really, it's a very impressive season for Schlittler, honestly. Not a name that we really thought about a whole lot heading into spring training. Then you knew about him after spring training, but the fact that it came together so quickly for him, obviously there was the Cole injury originally, and the Cole injury kind of in some ways to me opened up a door for Will Warren, essentially. And then the Clark Schmidt injury opened up a door for Cam Schlittler. Schlittler goes 7 innings, 2 hits, no runs, 1 walk, 9 strikeouts, to go 4-3 on the season with a 2.96 ERA in about probably 15 or so starts? 14 for Cam Schlittler. Good strikeout rate. Very impressive stuff for him, really. You got to be excited about the future, like with a lot of these players, honestly. Like with this Yankee team, there's a lot of individual talent. I don't know how the playoffs are going to look. There's still a lot of flaws to this team, but there's no doubt that, as far as like the farm system and young players coming through, like there is something there. There is. So good job by Schlittler. For the Orioles, it was Sogano. He loses to go to 10-10, 4 1/3 innings, 5 hits, 4 runs, no walks, 3 strikeouts. Not a great year for Sogano, but kind of one of the main. He kind of was healthy and kind of one of the mainstays of their rotation through the season. More of your expected lineup here. Although Goldschmidt was in the lineup against Arati, which we haven't seen much of, and I don't know if it was because day game after night game with Wells. I'm not totally sure the reason behind that, but they did go with Goldschmidt. I don't think it's something we're going to see in the postseason. I doubt very strongly that they'll go Goldschmidt against righties. I think it'll be more of a bench option in those scenarios, but it is Judge and Stanton getting it going. First inning, Judge homer, his 53rd homer of the year. And I do believe that Aaron Judge will win the AL MVP. I do. Not definitely. It's going to be close, but I think it goes to Judge. I do. So it goes 1-0 Yanks. Then Giancarlo Stanton in the second inning, 24th homer of the year. Just ridiculous. And then Ryan McMahon, 20th home run of the season, combined with the Rockies. Really a very bad offensive year for the Yanks and great defensively. And that's kind of the trade-off with McMahon. Makes it 3-0 Yanks. Um, then in the bottom of the fifth, and Schlittler, got into a couple of that, not many, like, get Jackson Holliday to ground out where he was the tying run in the fifth inning. But other than that, pretty quiet. Bottom of this is where the Yankees break it open. And they take out Sagano with 1 on, 1 out. And then it's bases loaded for Judge. And Boone actually gets ejected by Ramon De Jesus, which I think he's one of the worst umpires. On two pitches that were way inside and called strikes, and Boone gets ejected. But Judge ends up getting a 2-run single. Makes it 5-0 Yanks. Then Cody Bellinger with a sac fly makes it 6-0. Unfortunately for Cody Bellinger, 30 home runs and 100 RBIs were so much in his grasp, sadly. And look, the numbers on the year are just really steady and solid across the board. 29 homers, 90 RBIs for Bellinger. So that was statistically sad that he wasn't able to reach those benchmarks. But Bellinger gets the sac fly to make it 6-0. Unfortunately, Jazz Chisholm Jr. gets hit by a pitch inning and leaves the game, and actually did not start game 3, but would coming off the bench. I think he's okay. I'd like to think he's no worse for wear. But bad enough that he didn't start game 3. So, and he did leave this game. So it's 6-0 at this point. Caballero comes in to replace Chisholm. And I get 7 great innings from Schlittler. And then Paul Blackburn comes in. And Paul Blackburn, who I don't anticipate being on the wildcard roster, but crazier things have happened. Fact of the matter is, he actually hasn't really been that bad in sort of this multi-inning mop-up type role. He does get a home run to Kobe Mayo as his first batter, but then really settled down and got the next 6 guys out the next couple of innings. And the Yankees win the game 6-1. But then unfortunately, the Blue Jays beat the Rays. So now we go into the last day of the season. Was really hoping that the Yankees would somehow be in control going to the last game. That was kind of my hope. It didn't happen. And you knew the Yankees had the work cut out for them. I mean, not only was their own matchup tough in game 3, Kyle Bradish versus Luis Gil, but, Kevin Gausman was starting for the Blue Jays. The ironic thing is that Kevin Gausman was terrible. Kevin Gausman didn't make it out of the 4th inning for the Blue Jays. And if somehow the Blue Jays lost, they wouldn't have really had Gausman in all likelihood for their wild card series. But no harm, no foul for them. But anyway, and all games on the last day of the season start at the same time. Luis Gil gets a no decision. 5 innings, 3 hits, 2 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. A very weird year for Gil in the sense that the strikeout rate was really low. The whip was pretty high, which that isn't such a surprise with Gil with all the walks he issues, but ends up with a 3.32 ERA, 11 games. There's something to be said for just the fact that he didn't really give up runs. He had that really bad outing against the Marlins. I think there was one other outing that wasn't very good. Other than that, he pretty much always kept them in it. And so I don't think we're going to see him in the Red Sox series based merely on the fact that, he just pitched on the Sunday before the series begins. So there's just not enough time really for him to really have any much of a big role. We'll see though. Again, curious to see what the roster looks like, but Gil gets the no decision. They probably could have kept him a little bit longer, in my opinion. I actually might have started him in the 6th inning. They didn't. Kyle Bradish, he goes 4 innings. And, I guess they must have had a pitch count on Bradish. He only threw 69 pitches. Could have probably gone further. 4 innings, 5 hits, 2 runs, no walks, 8 strikeouts. Kyle Bradish, very impressive. I mean, when he's healthy, he's really good. And again, the no walks, 8 strikeouts, and 4 innings speaks to that. But again, Chisholm doesn't start. It's Caballero, but Chisholm would pinch hit later in the game. This is the Ben Rice game. And what a season for Ben Rice. He homers in the 1st inning. 25th homer of the year to give the Yankees a 1-0 lead. Then in the top of the 4th is where Gil runs into trouble. And it does seem as if the home run ball And maybe it's more just recent starts, but I think the home run ball probably did get to Heal more this year than maybe it did last year. I feel like he was pretty good as far as home run prevention last year. This year, it doesn't feel like that as much. Westberg homer, 17th of the year, and then Gunnar Henderson homer, 17th of the year, back to back to make it 2 on Orioles. And it's funny, at this point, the Blue Jays had jumped into a big lead, but then it looks as if they they were coming back. They made it 5-4 and trying to do more. So it got to a weird point. It's like, whoa, wait a minute. Like, it'd be really bad if the Blue Jays lose, but then the Yankees lose as well. Obviously, it doesn't come to fruition. Blue Jays ended up winning easily, but at this part of the Yankee game, it was getting close. It was getting interesting. The Yankees do respond back in the fourth. RBI singles Giancarlo Stanton to make it 2-2. They did strand the neck, Wells, Volpe, and McMahon then strike out. So it stays 2-2. Keegan Aiken comes to the bottom of the fifth, and this is the Caballero talking point. It ends up first and second, no out, and Caballero gets picked off second. He's got to be smarter. I love his ability to steal bases. In fact, he stole a base in that inning to get 49. You know what? Now that I think about it, and it's a little bit selfish, he probably wanted to get 50. He probably did, and that's not an excuse. It's not, and maybe I'm wrong about that, but I'm just noticing that it's a nice number to get to. But that's happened way, way too much. Way too much. And I guess you take the good with the bad, but he's got to be a little bit smarter. Some of this stuff is inexcusable. So that kind of killed that inning right there, him getting picked off second. They don't score. Sixth inning, Fernando Cruz gets into some early trouble, including a walk, but he is able to get out of it, including a nice play by Cruz to get the out at home. On a first and third one-out play, Rushman grounds out to Cruz. Wells tags out Westberg. And look, but then Mountcastle crushed the ball to Grisham. So again, you don't leave the season feeling great about Fernando Cruz. And not that it works this way, but for me, he is no better than fourth in the pecking order. Like, it is Bednar, Williams, Weaver. And again, that's not even like my order, but Cruz is still kind of part of that high leverage. And I think that could be dicey based on the way things have been lately. Then from there, Luke Weaver, an impressive 1-2-3 7th inning, which was nice. Chisholm does pinch hit for Caballero and strike out in the bottom of the seventh. Devin Williams is able to pitch a scoreless top of the eighth. And again, at this point, you're kind of going through the motions of it all, knowing that the Blue Jays were going to win. But Ben Rice does it again. Big home run, 26th homer of the season, off of Rico Garcia, the former Yankee, actually. Hadn't really thought about that in the moment, but makes it 3-2 Yanks. And then in the top of the ninth, and actually, I want to go back to one point. The one good thing about the Yankees winning, I know this is really far-fetched. By the Yankees winning this game, they do have home field over the Dodgers. Now, I know neither team may get there, but hey, maybe they both do. And by at least the Yankees winning this game, they would have home field against the Dodgers. Again, put that to the side for later on, hopefully. David Bednar does come in the ninth inning, which is a little bit interesting considering the fact that the Yankees play just a couple days. I mean, it's a quick turnaround. Off day Monday, game Tuesday. And Bednar just pitched on Friday. Like, he has pitched a lot lately. It would have been very conceivable to say, hey, I think the Blue Jays are winning by a lot at this point. I mean, it's over. The game is essentially over. But they went with Bednar, and he actually leadoff walk Adley Rushman. Like, it got a little bit interesting, but then again, Bednar gets the job done again. Mountcastle ground out, and then strike out of Beaver, strike out of Cowser. Yankees win 3-2. Bednar gets his 27th save of the season between the Pirates and the Yankees. Again, just fantastic numbers for David Bednar. With the Yankees, he ends up 4-0 with a 2.19 ERA, 10 saves, 35 strikeouts in 24 and 2/3 innings, .93 whip, 159 batting average against. Just amazing stuff by David Bednar, like the clear-cut closer on this team. So now the Yankees will head to the wildcard series, right? And so I'm going to discuss that in a preview episode, a wildcard preview. Really, the first one the Yankees have been in. Like, I know they were in that 2021 against the Guardians, but it was different. It just was. I mean, it's the most similar comparison. But here we go. It's at Yankee Stadium, which is a good thing, and not Fenway Park. I do believe, even though the Red Sox did well at Yankee Stadium, they went 5-2 at Yankee Stadium this year. But a lot to discuss. The rivalry is going to be, there in full force. But Yankees end up the season on an 8-game winning streak. They get the sweep against the Orioles, but unfortunately, they fall short of the AL East title. It goes to the Toronto Blue Jays, who will wait to face the winner of the Yankees and Red Sox.